The call was blown. Like, if you're in this chat, and I don't even want to look, complaining about the call, saying, yeah, but the call. I do think the call would have given them, obviously, an opportunity to march down the field 80 yards with no timeouts in a half where they've scored 3 points, and they were going to get an opportunity to score a touchdown and kick the 2-point conversion. If you believe that was likely, and, hey, if I was on the other side of this thing, I'd be screaming about the call, too. It was a terrible call. Just a god-awful no call. I will say this, though. It wasn't like a middle of the face. It was kind of the side of the face mask. And that does make – well, I mean, I don't think – I just told you I think it's a terrible call. I'm not making a case for – I'm just trying to give people a full, assessment of what's going on in the field there. The guy cannot miss that call. But, if you're a Vikings fan and you think the call cost you the game, I would ask you, did you come to play? And if you can make a case, it's like I told a guy on Twitter.com last night. I said, like, if you think your team looked good on a short week off Detroit, taking you to the wire and winning, please elaborate on that, because I don't think the Vikings looked great, especially after Darrisaw went down. I mean, that's a big one.
Take a knee.
Yep.
You can take a knee.
Yeah.
LA had 1 timeout. That's the beauty of them having to use timeouts. You can take a knee.
You can absolutely take a knee, and it kind of reminded me of, actually, it's to me it's worse than the Godwin thing. I don't think is a problem, because, as I outlined the other day, and fans are always going to have, we got into this a couple years ago about Brandon Staley, I think, and he had kept Mike Williams in a meaningless game.
Yeah.
Some people said, and Chris Godwin, they're a field goal away from an onside kick, and then, one last heave. Whether you think that's worth it or not, having Chris Godwin out there, he did get hurt. It was a football play. And then at the end of the half here with Darrisaw, I do think, like, there was nothing to gain having to run plays there. So
they had room.
The worst possible thing happened. And they were at the 5, and I think they got backed up half distance to the goal. You can still take a knee there.
I think you still have room.
Yes.
And it was just one of those things where I think somebody from the defense came in and leg whipped him, just flying in there.
I think it was Byron Young off the other side getting blocked around. And Jared Verse had 1 pressure on 13 rushes in the first half. Obviously, after the Darrisaw injury, he had 3 pressures on 10 in the second half.
Somebody asked, and Quesenberry, he was a problem. And I think and another reason why I don't think necessarily, and I'm just being honest, I know I'm on the other side of this thing, but I don't think y'all were coming down the field getting 6 and a 2-point conversion the way that the left tackle was playing, the way that the offense had played throughout the second half. Like, that is a big difference. And, I just, Matt Stafford sometimes looks like a magician out there. I mean, he really does. And for somebody like Cooper Kupp, who we're talking about trading, the irony is his trade value went up last night, and I'm not sure if he's on the table if they win this coming week. And who do they play this coming week? Who do they play?
Seahawks.
The Seahawks.
In Seattle.
That's a game they can win. They're going to play the Dolphins the week after that. Like, you think Sean McVay, the Patriots the week after that, and the Eagles the week after that, and the Saints the week after that, okay? They have a chance to go on a run here. They're a team last year that was out of it at one point, and people like me implored them to sell. Now, I was wrong, because they went and they took Detroit to the wire in one of the best football games of the season.
And they went 7-1 after their bye week in Week 10 last year.
I mean, they were
7-1 to end the season.
They were great to end the season. When you have Matt Stafford, you always have a chance. And so I think, what I said in my video there before the game was, like, wide receivers on the move. But this is that game where if you win it, maybe you don't sell anybody. Maybe you say, hey, we can get back to the playoffs. Look how close we were. But the defense tightened up. Let's say Jared Verse finally got home. I talk glowingly about the kid because, and somebody texted me last night that we know and they said, because he might say, oh, now you're on the other side of this thing. He said he looks like a young Khalil Mack out there. I think that's a little rich. But I do think he looks like a guy who can be your number 1 rusher.
He is the DROY favorite on BetMGM at plus 225.
And honestly, he should be.
Yeah.
If you're watching the tape, like the numbers aren't always going to support this kid, because he's not a great hoop turner. He's not a great, like, bend it at the top of the rush guy, and he flies in there out of control. and misses some sacks. I know exactly what that feels like. I know exactly what that feels like in that uniform, okay? But I think the thing that people are going to realize in today's day and age where you can actually track pressures, disruptions, people have all 22. A guy like that who's disruptive and doesn't get the numbers is going to get his due. And I think Jared Verse should, because him, Young, Fisk, it's a very good little group of rushers. And by little, I mean Young. Yeah. But last night he finally got home and he came on, and I just thought, like, Darius Williams, who got beat on that circus catch down, and the Vikings go tempo. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
They go tempo, and, they're trying to beat the challenge flag. I thought Darius Williams knocking that ball down in the flat there, tried to go quick to the perimeter, was huge because it set them up to kick a field goal.
Well, and first down was a loss of 3 or 4.
That's what I mean.
Because they're hurrying up.
That's what I mean. That's the play.
And I think he caught it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you want to hurry up no matter what, but
He
I
did
think
catch
he caught
it.
it.
He did catch
so
it.
you'd like to have more time to.
It felt like in the red zone in that possession, they were just kind of like, oh, we're down here.
Yeah.
As much as they ran the ball up and down the field. So, and Mike Shula, my brother in Christ, why do we have Michael Hoyt, or however you say his name, on Aaron Jones? And I know he's a nice chess piece for the Rams. I mean him no disrespect, but I wouldn't want Julius Peppers on Aaron Jones.
Chris Shula, right?
Chris Shula. Did I say Mike Shula? Chris Shula.
Yeah.
My apologies, my brother in Christ. But Chris, my brother in namesake, like
Y'all are both named Christ.
Christ bearers, dude.
Yeah.
We need to keep that guy out of man-to-man coverage with running backs, just in general. But I thought the Rams defense was scrappy, and listen, Darnold. Go ahead.
When that happens, is that the offense like kind of seeing that and manipulating that? Like, oh, he has to play man on one of the guys out of the backfield, right?
Oh, for sure. They know when they break the huddle, they're like, oh my God, we're getting the look.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and 3. It's like a big 3rd and 3. They're like, oh my God, they're really doing this. And I think those are the matchups that you want to stay out of. I thought the Rams screen game was good. I thought obviously some drives got extended. How much better do Rams role players look when they are matched up with equally talented players? Right. You know what I'm saying? I think that's one thing that like really stands out to me. Robinson late in the game, they took some shots to Atwell. The shot to Atwell's there, Stafford just underthrew him a little bit. So there were more points on the field.
2-2.
But I look at it, and I don't even blame him. I think Stafford's got to put more, he's got to really lead him a little bit more. But, the last few weeks, these guys have had to go against first, second corners like dudes. It's not designed that way. McVay is going to beat your third and fourth corner. The depth in this receiving core when it's all together is very good. And so
DeMarcus Robinson, 2 touchdowns.
2 tuds.
That first one was a great catch. Picked it off the turf.
2 tuds, man. So I guess what we should be talking about is, what if they move guys? That this was a rumor last week where Stafford was on the move. I think that was bullshit, right? Or I think it was a situation where they're trying to drum up a little interest and see what was out there. I looked at a few teams. Let's play Fantasyland. Where would you guys place him at, Stafford?
Nowhere. He's 50 years old.
That's right.
Stafford?
Yeah.
Raiders.
That's a great call, and we looked at that.
Raiders.
We looked at the Raiders thing. What did we find out with the Raiders thing? There's a little bit of
So right now with the contract situation, a team would need 14 mil in space if they want to acquire him. Raiders, they have the space, but they just sold their best receiver to the Jets.
So the spot is LA.
So the teams that could afford him don't look like they're. And I couldn't remember who else we looked at. Maybe Cleveland. No, was it Cleveland? Yeah. They just moved Amari Cooper. And like why? The Raiders, same thing.
And then Tennessee as well, right?
Tennessee, they're selling, so why would you buy? So this is like, if you think about it, like most quarterbacks that get traded, it's because of an injury, and maybe there's an injury over the next 2 weeks, and maybe the Rams lose this game or something like that, and things line up, and he gets moved. But I don't think so, because the last guy to get traded who was a dude mid-season, I think was Carson Palmer when he went to the Raiders, ironically. And I think that situation was a little bit loaded. So, anyways, like, hey, if Kupp was available, absolutely somebody would send over maybe a 2. Like, depending.
Rams' problem is McVay is too good a coach. Like, his ability to get wins with a substandard roster keeps them in an organizational purgatory where they're not looking to make a trade because, hey, we're a game out of first in the division.
Yeah, no. And for the GM, it was like me and Nolan were talking about this, like, on the ride over here. It's like, man, you wake up this morning, you're Les Snead. I'm not saying you wish you lost, but it would make things a lot simpler.
Right.
You know what I mean? You'd know where you need to go. But these damn guys, man, McVay, Kupp, Stafford, you know, like, they're the triplets. You know, now you got Puka and the whole thing, but they've been some places, man. I think it's deeper than just a, you know, trade deadline thing for them. You know, they've been some places. They've done some things. When you win a championship together, it's deep, you know, and they're not just going to ship this guy off unless they got no shot.